December 13th, 2020, Luling, Texas. A 21-year-old college student is driving home for Christmas break. He'd left his apartment in San Marcos, headed for his family's house in Missouri City. It should have been a familiar drive. His bags were packed, the semester was behind him, and the holidays were waiting at the end of the road. But he never made it home. Just after midnight, his car was found crashed on a rural road. The lights were on, his belongings were there, but he was nowhere to be found. No goodbye, no clear direction, no answer that has ever made enough sense. What happened in those dark, cold hours has haunted his family, frustrated investigators, and left Texas with one of its most unsettling missing person cases. This is the disappearance of Jason Landry. What happened on Salt Flat Road? Hey, y'all, I'm Chris Calvert.
And I'm her husband, Rob Pottorff. Welcome to Hitched to Homicide.
For better or worse.
Till death do us part.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome. And for our friends over in Aruba.
Oh.
Aruba, Jamaica.
Ooh, I wanna take ya.
Bon bunny.
You know, it's hotter there than it is here right now.
Yeah.
So maybe not. Let's go with February.
Okay, we can do that.
Well, wherever you're listening, be sure to subscribe to Hitched to Homicide. Then like, rate, and review the podcast so others who love true crime can find us.
Yep.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button below.
Please.
If you want true crime with us all the time, please go join our closed Facebook group, The In-Laws and Outlaws. Those are our people.
Yes, they are.
Go to Facebook, type in H2H In-Laws and Outlaws, answer a couple questions, and you are in. Please go join.
Mm-hmm.
I post photos and other information in there, and it's a great supportive group of true crime loving folks.
Aficionados.
Yes, they are, and they're all very funny.
Yes.
You can find us on Instagram at Hitched to Homicide or on X at H2H_podcast, and we also have a Buy Me a Coffee link if you want to send Rob some coffee.
Please.
Keeping him awake.
Yep.
Lots of late hours these past few weeks.
I keep saying Pete's Coffee, and they're not sending me any. Pete's, come on.
You can find that link in our show notes. You can also send us a message or a text. The link to that is now at the bottom of the show notes where it says, send Chris and Rob a message.
Mm-hmm.
This is a missing persons case that is extremely crazy, very haunting. I wanted to give it some attention because the more people hear about these missing person cases, the more chances somebody comes forward because somebody knows something about this case.
Okay.
Before we get started, let me thank some sources. Wikipedia, mysanantonio.com, Texas Monthly, Disappeared, Reddit, Facebook, KABB Fox, KVUE, KENS, People Magazine, the Office of the Attorney General of Texas, and SolveTheCase.org, to name a few.
And XYZ.
And a knick-knack paddywhack.
There you go. All right. Well, you ready?
I am.
Let's do it.
Jason Landry was born on July 29th, 1999, to Kent and Lisa Landry. He's one of those kids who was born in the 1900s. He grew up in Missouri City, which is a suburb of Houston, Texas. He's the youngest of three children with older siblings Jessica and Kyle, and he is widely described by family as an extroverted, charismatic, quote, class clown, end quote.
I wouldn't know anything about
I was
that.
going to say, sound familiar? Type who love to make people laugh. That's Rob, y'all.
All right.
Friends and relatives have described him as vibrant, sociable, and he had a strong interest in music, cars, and the outdoors. He was kind of known as a goofball, which was the opposite of his two siblings. His father was a trial attorney turned Presbyterian minister.
Wow.
And it had to be hard growing up, being a preacher's kid. I think that would be really hard.
Yeah.
After high school, he went off to college at Sam Houston State, and he was this clean-cut kid. But once he hit the university, he let his hair grow out. He stopped wearing his button-downs and polo shirts and started wearing tie-dyed T-shirts and hoodies.
Oh, man.
He's just letting his freak flag fly, right? That's what you're supposed to do. You discover who you are when you're out of high school.
Yep.
He didn't show much interest in school, and after 2 years at Sam Houston State, he transferred to Texas State University, and his grades really started to improve. He was more focused, and his parents thought, this is great, he's really found his way. But then 2020 happened to all of us.
Yeah.
And COVID-19 forced classes to be online. And according to his parents, this was really hard for Jason because he thrived on that social interaction.
Sure.
And he didn't do well in isolation. And this very extroverted kid who was always full of optimism, he kind of vanished. He was stuck in his apartment with one other living thing, his fish, named Sparky. He was depressed, as was most of the world, I have to say, and he started to self-medicate with marijuana. And according to his father, in a Texas Monthly article, quote, he was stuck in a small apartment, in a small room, on an empty floor. It was like solitary confinement for him, and I'm not surprised that he self-medicated, end quote.
Yeah.
But first semester is over, and he's planning on heading home for Christmas break. And I told you he's a funny kid, but what I didn't tell you is he has this love for socks, for interesting socks.
Okay.
He told his mom that he wanted more fun socks for Christmas. He wanted, like, wacky socks, not basic ones with, quote, tacos or dogs on them, end quote.
I have fun socks, too.
You do have fun socks.
Yep.
But there are some really fun socks out there. There's a website called Blue Q. Hilarious. I have some bordering on dirty dish towels that hang in my kitchen that my friends give me. It's like, congratulations, you've turned my kitchen into something horrible. You can fill in the blank there.
There you go.
He's driving home on December 13th, but in the days leading up to that, he's finishing up finals and he's not sleeping. He's ordering DoorDash. I read it was Chick-fil-A, Subway, guy after my own heart, and he's making videos of himself smoking weed, showing close-ups of buds, and talking about getting his life, quote, on the right track, end quote.
Okay.
He tells one of his close friends that with the help of drugs, he'd actually found God and truly seen him, quote, for the first time ever. But in retrospect, his friends are going to say that he really wasn't eating or sleeping. And his longtime friend, who was also at Texas State, said, quote, it seemed more and more apparent that our conversations weren't making sense anymore. Jason would talk about the rapture coming, aliens, Jesus, Elon Musk, and all the things he would tie together somehow, end quote.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay.
I think he's really out there. He's pushing the boundaries of his mind and looking for he's looking for something in the middle of a COVID-19 depression. That is my guess.
I may have missed this in the beginning. Is he of higher intelligence? I mean, he's a smart kid?
He's a smart kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
he's a smart kid.
All right.
Jason was into the ideas behind psychedelics, their connection with and near-death and spiritual experiences. So he even messaged a friend the weekend before he's heading home and said, quote, dude, I low-key have always wanted to be a monk and reach spiritual enlightenment someday and levitate from meditation or turn into a stone statue and achieve nirvana or something, end quote.
Dude, lay off the joints.
He's really trying to, like, reach that next level of consciousness.
Sure.
And, I mean, I sort of get it. You know, classes are online.
Yeah.
If you spend enough time alone, you start to make yourself a little bit crazy, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know for myself with the work that I do, which is music
solitary.
I'm down here in the studio by myself all the time. And
Well, I do come visit.
She does.
I make cookies sometimes, too, and bring them down.
Every once in a while, she'll throw a slab of raw meat down the stairs, and I'll gobble it up. But it does. It takes its toll on you when you don't have that communication or that physical communication with someone else.
Yeah.
And, so I get it.
Yeah, I mean, just even both of us work from home, and when we leave the house, it's like, it's so nice to be out.
Yeah, we go to a restaurant, it's like, wow.
There are other people.
This is the way the rest of the world
This is how
operates.
everybody else lives. I think that's how he felt.
Yeah.
At the same time, on December 12th, the day before he's ready to leave, he's talking with his family members, and they feel like, for the most part, he's just the same old Jason. And the next day, he has a long FaceTime conversation with a friend where he's alert and outgoing. He is rolling a joint and chatting with him. But other than that, there was nothing unusual. He finished his finals and his last shift at Jimmy John's, where he worked. He was in good spirits. He was about to be home with his family and away from school for an entire month. And even when COVID-19 wasn't happening, way back in the early 1900s, when I was in college or you were in college, there was nothing better than being finished with finals.
Oh, yeah.
And like leaving school or know you're going home or it's time to have a good time, right?
Yeah, I remember, I have it, a picture of myself. It was my freshman year at OU, and I came home for Christmas break, and I'm just sacked out, sound asleep on the couch.
Yeah. Yeah, because all you did was study.
Yeah, it was just so nice to be home.
Very nice to be home.
Yeah.
Then on that day, December 13th, he decided he was just going to go ahead and drive home. He packed up all his toiletries like in a plastic bag. His PlayStation, just the essentials, right?
Things to survive by, yeah, exactly.
Toiletries, PlayStation, his laptop. He had a couple joints that he had inside his backpack, inside a pill container. He packed up his Siamese fighting fish, Sparky, in a plastic tumbler to take home with him.
Okay.
Now, on December 13th, 2020, Jason left his San Marcos apartment sometime around 10:55 p.m., intending to drive to his parents' home in Missouri City. And the drive should have been a couple hours via major roadways. And he'd driven the route at least 2 other times before in his tan 2003 Nissan Altima. But still, he programmed his Waze app to guide him home, 165 miles.
Okay.
And we do this. If you don't use Waze, get on it because it'll tell you that the police are coming up or somebody's on the side of the road.
Or there's a pothole.
Or there's a pothole, and I've hit the pothole and then seen the hazard ahead.
Yeah, that's when you say it's still there.
The pothole is still there. By 11 p.m., Jason is on the road, and 10 minutes later, he's in Caldwell County on Texas Highway 80. It's a stretch of road that links San Marcos to Luling, Texas, which is a small oil and ranching community. But it also has problems of its own, like drugs. And so many small towns have problems with drugs.
Sure.
While Jason is driving, he's chatting with a friend, his ex-girlfriend, on FaceTime and Snapchat. Don't FaceTime and Snapchat while you're driving, kids. Just don't.
Don't do it.
Jason reaches Luling, Texas at 11:24 p.m. Then he abruptly stops using Waze. And instead of turning right on Magnolia Avenue, which would have led him to Interstate 10 and the Houston suburbs and his home, Jason's car continued straight for several blocks. And this street eventually veers to the left and turns into Salt Flat Road. And his Altima continued down this road for 5 miles. At 11:28, Jason sent his ex-girlfriend a final Snapchat selfie from inside his car. He looked calm, but this is the last time anyone would ever see or hear from Jason Landry again.
Okay.
Jason's digital footprint essentially stops. And he's on this dark gravel road. This road turns into like a gravel road. If you've ever lived in a rural community, it goes from pavement to like gravel.
Yeah.
And when it's dark and you're in the middle of nowhere and there are no street lights or moonlight, it's dark. It's just really, and can be a little bit scary.
Yep.
So he's on this dark gravel road. It's bordered by fields, barbed wire fencing, and brush, and there are very few people out there. Shortly after midnight, around 12:30 a.m. on December 14th, 2020, a local volunteer firefighter comes upon Jason's car. It's crashed on Salt Flat Road. And this is an hour after his last Snapchat to his ex-girlfriend. This guy, the volunteer fireman, sees that the car is badly damaged, with evidence that it had spun out on the gravel and left the roadway and collided with trees and a barbed wire fence. It's wedged against a tree, facing the wrong direction, and the airbags had not deployed. Now, there's a lot of damage to the car, and the rear window is shattered. The engine is off, but the keys are in the ignition, and the car's headlights are on, and the car is locked with the keys inside.
What?
The volunteer firefighter reports the wreck, and at around 1:15 a.m., the police arrive. They think that the driver of the car got out through the back window because it's shattered, and they think that he fled the scene. This is what they initially believe. Later, they're going to say that Jason got out of the car by squeezing through the driver's side door, which was right against a barbed wire fence.
Okay.
Now, there's body cam footage of this, and the Texas State Trooper, his name is Cristobal Flores, tells the Caldwell County Sheriff's deputy, who's also on the scene, that it was, quote, probably some college kid, end quote, which is quickly followed up with, quote, what in the world was he doing down this road?
Yeah.
Jason's not at the scene. Inside his car, they can see his personal items, indicating he had packed for winter break. Toiletries, laptop, PlayStation, it's all in there. But something else that the trooper didn't catch, but the firefighter did, who, by the way, seems to be doing a better job of investigating this crash site than the county sheriff or the state trooper. The firefighter shows them that about 900 feet away from the car is Jason's backpack, and it's sitting on the side of the road. And Trooper Flores opens the backpack and finds Jason's wallet, his laptop, and his weed stash, the joints in the pill bottle.
Right.
His toiletries are in there, and a few feet away is the plastic tumbler holding Sparky, his fish, who is already dead.
Oh.
Now, it's Texas, which stays warm comparatively to some of the rest of us in the United States in December. But that night, a cold front had moved in and kicked up some wind, dropping the temperature into the mid-30s. Then a few dozen feet away from the backpack are clothes, Jason's clothes, scattered along the road, shorts, underwear, socks, and slide sandals. And it looked as if he was taking off his clothes, like he's a kid taking off his clothes and getting into the shower, like where one thing drops and the next thing drops and the next thing drops.
We're familiar with that.
That's Rob. His T-shirt was from a summer Christian camp where he had worked, and under it was his watch, which was placed face up. There were black Nike shorts followed by gray underwear with a small blood stain on the waistband, which is why they think he got out next to the barbed wire fence and he just cut himself.
Sure.
And a pair of black slide sandals and 2 socks near the slides. Now, again, temperatures in the early morning hours of December 14th in that area were near freezing, with cold, damp conditions typical of rural central Texas in December. The landscape includes fields, brush, water tanks, and ponds, and areas frequented by wild hogs and other wildlife.
Yeah, wild hogs are mean, too.
But where was Jason?
Yeah.
By the time the trooper got in touch with Jason's parents, Lisa and Kent, who were both asleep, Trooper Flores tells them he found narcotics in Jason's backpack and that Jason was nowhere to be found. Quote, he may be under the influence, and because of that, maybe that's why he took his clothes off, if those are his clothes, in the dirt road. With the way the temperature is out there in the dark country, clear night, it feels like it's 30-some-odd degrees, especially with the way the winds have been a-blowing, end quote. So can you imagine you're waking up and they're like, your child's car has crashed, we've found some clothes, and he had narcotics on him, but that's it. And Kent asked the officer, well, what about our son? I mean, well, we don't see him. He's under the influence. It was almost like as soon as they found the drugs, they didn't care anymore, honestly.
Yeah.
And Kent asked the officer, what can we do besides pray? And then he even said, should I drive out there? And this state trooper doesn't really give him an answer, but he does. Kent is getting to Luling, Texas as fast as he can, and he's thinking when he gets there, he's going to find Jason. Right. So he packed a blanket and extra clothes for his son, but when he pulls up to the crash site, he sees that the car has been towed, and there's no Jason, and there's no crime scene tape to keep people away from the site. There's also no one there looking for his son. No detectives. No one's looking for Jason in this cold weather after they believe he's under the influence and out walking in the dangerous wilderness, possibly nude.
Yeah.
Kent calls his wife, who calls the state police, to find out that Trooper Flores had gone home and gone to bed.
All done here. Nothing to see.
So Kent starts wandering the area himself. After all, he is still an attorney, even though he's now a Presbyterian minister.
Sure.
He was a trial attorney. So he starts filming the crime scene location to document the tire tracks of his son's accident. Not only that, Jason's clothes were still on the road, and he knew they belonged to his son because of his SpongeBob socks. There were SpongeBob socks in the road.
Okay.
Quote, they were yellow, light blue SpongeBob socks, the kind that Jason loved, end quote. Now, police tell Lisa, Jason's mom, that they assume when someone leaves the scene of an accident, they have something to hide. And according to Kent, this is exactly how I feel, the moment the police found the joints in Jason's backpack, they ceased to care about his whereabouts.
Yeah, right.
Quote, regardless of whether Jason was stoned, drunk, or any of the above, you had what you thought was a naked college student wandering a place he did not know in freezing cold weather with Arctic winds. You need to find that person and save them from themselves. However they got in that situation, it doesn't matter. Find them and help them, end quote. Yeah. So Kent goes to the impound lot with his own set of keys to Jason's car. He gets inside this crashed car and finds Jason's cell phone. And of course, this is a huge piece of evidence. It was lodged between the driver's seat and the center console. Now, why wouldn't he have taken his cell phone with him?
Yeah.
If police think he was fleeing the scene of the accident, why wouldn't he take his phone?
Yeah.
It's going to take most of the day of December 14th for the search and rescue people to get their act together. The Texas Department of Public Safety will initiate the investigation, and then they contact the Texas Search and Rescue, which is a nonprofit first responder group that works with law enforcement. And it took so much of the next day for the authorities to, get it all going, and we know that the first 48 hours of a crime are what?
That's the most important.
They're crucial.
Yeah.
Over the next several days, there were more than 100 volunteers searching the area on foot, on horseback, in ATVs. They showed Jason's face on the news. There were drones in the sky. Volunteers in wetsuits were searching murky, icy creeks. They used a helicopter, a small plane. They looked over 31,000 acres. There's no sign of Jason.
Yeah, 31,000 acres. That's a lot of land.
They covered a lot of land.
Yeah, especially out in the country like that. I mean, especially if it's farmland. I grew up out in the country, and with farmland. And especially during December, crops are down, so it's just barren land.
Yeah, there's a reason they call it a country mile, because it seems longer.
Yeah, it sure does.
The San Marcos police call his roommate, and he says he hadn't heard from Jason. And it's not until that night, the December 14th, that the search crews brought in dogs trained in human scent detection. So it takes them all this time, and then finally they bring in the dogs.
Let me get my coffee. I'll be out there in a little bit.
Yeah. 2 days after his disappearance, there were 8 different dogs out, and they all focused on a small pond that was about 1,000 yards from the crash site. And these cadaver dogs were signaling that there might be human remains in this pond. And according to Sean Hostrider, who at the time was overseeing the field operations for the Texas search and rescue, they gave the dogs a T-shirt of Jason's to smell, and one dog pulled really hard to the pond and showed, quote, no deviation whatsoever on a hot trail, end quote.
Okay.
So they put a boat in this pond with sonar, and they get a hit. So a dive team from San Marcos went into the pond, but they found absolutely nothing. And they searched for hours. Then they got permission from the owner of the pond to drain it, which took 3 days. But when they did drain the pond, there was no Jason. And Jason's family's relieved that his body isn't at the bottom of this drained pond, but it still meant that they didn't know where he was.
Right.
But there was still hope that Jason was alive. But here's the thing. The dogs that searched kept showing intense interest in more than one body of water in the area, and they drained several of them. Still no body. Finally, they began thinking after a scientist suggested that something in the oil production process when mixed with water was creating the illusion for the dogs that there's human decomposition happening.
Gotcha.
And that's interfering with the dog's ability to process the scent information.
That makes sense.
After 9 days, Texas Search and Rescue suspended its initial search, but the Landrys are just left with more questions than answers. If Jason wasn't there, and they believed he walked on foot, as the police believe he did, why wasn't his body found when there were so many people searching on foot? And why didn't any of the helicopters or drones find him?
Right.
The Caldwell County Sheriff's Office is eventually going to admit that when the officers left the crash that night, the critical search period was lost.
Yeah.
So they do finally say, well, maybe, Trooper Flores shouldn't have gone home and gone to bed.
You think?
Yeah. According to Kent, quote, it's weird when you compare Jason's case to Gabby Petito. He's talking about the 22-year-old girl whose body was found in the National Forest after she was murdered by her fiancé in that cross-country trip in 2021.
Yeah, I remember that.
Quote, they literally searched entire states and found her in some of the most inhospitable terrain around, and we can't find Jason in a cow pasture outside Luling, Texas, end quote. But here are the things that the authorities have said complicate this case. Jason may have been high under the influence when he went missing. There are investigators who believe that he could have suffered some head trauma from the wreck. The car was totaled, but his airbags did not deploy.
That doesn't make sense at all.
That the car was totaled, but the airbags didn't deploy?
Especially if you ran into a tree. I mean, your airbags will deploy if you back end somebody hard enough.
It was the side of his car that hit the tree, not the front of his car.
Oh, okay.
The side of his car hit the tree. He spun around and then, boom, hit the side of the tree.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking he head on.
No.
Okay.
Also, something we haven't talked about is that on that December 13th, the sky was lit up by a Geminid meteor shower that was highly visible in this area of Texas. And according to many, that night it looked like the sky was falling. So they are saying that if he was high and he'd hit his head and he gets out of the car and it looks like the sky is falling, that could have had something to do with how he acted after the wreck. Seriously?
There's a stretch.
And after taking off all of his clothes, he walked not down the gravel road, but into the harsh Texas countryside that was full of barbed wire, steep gullies, creeks, rusted oil pumps, and leftover equipment from the oil fields. It was full of roughnecks who worked these oil fields. And the town of Luling had a reputation for being a rough town and is still known as a pretty rough place, even though it's kind of turned itself into a Austin and San Antonio commuter community. Okay. So people will work in Austin and San Antonio, but they'll live in Luling.
Right.
I don't know if I buy that.
Yeah, I mean, I would go more with a psychotic break.
But he was just talking to his ex-girlfriend, and she said he was fine.
Yeah, that's true. How do we know what the time relationship from when he was talking to her to when
he goes dark?
Yeah.
It's like 15 minutes.
Yes, yeah.
So hang on.
Makes no sense.
6 months before Jason went missing, 2 teenage boys, their names were Clayton Manning and his cousin Landon Robinson, were out checking for smoke in the area because Clayton was a volunteer firefighter for the Southeast Caldwell County Volunteer Fire Department, and he had his 16-year-old cousin Landon with him. And these two were gunned down on a rural road several miles from where Jason wrecked his car. And when I say gunned down, they were hit by more than 50 bullets.
Jeez.
A man by the name of Brian Haynes, who was the shooter, said he was being chased by aliens. And according to his arrest affidavit, he was forced to shoot Clayton and Landon, quote, in the middle and the head area to make sure they would die, end quote.
Because they were aliens.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
The town, like many in America, has had its fair share of drug problems. They've seized a buttload of meth in this county. So there's bound to be some nefarious characters afoot. Mm-hmm. But the fact that there has never been a sighting of Jason, his body has never been found, it's crazy. Because there are people on this road every single day. Somebody doesn't just wreck their car on a gravel road on their way home when they've got ways telling them how to get to the interstate. Yeah. There has to be more to this story, right?
Right.
By February of 2021, 2 months after Jason went missing, people from outside the Luling, Texas area were interested in this case. And there are Facebook groups and Reddit threads, and there are lots of theories out there. In fact, some of the Facebook groups have thousands and thousands of members. Like, some believe he was chased by a serial killer who'd been targeting motorists in Texas. But Kim Rossmo got involved. And Kim Rossmo is a really well-known criminologist. He teaches at Texas State and is the director of the Center for Geospatial Intelligence and Investigation. He's an ex-cop who still tracks violent criminals. He's developed his own technique called geographic profiling that, according to a Texas Monthly article on Jason's disappearance, is a statistical tool that helps investigators prioritize suspects, tips, and locations. And this technique has been used to find serial rapists, arsonists, and murderers around the world. But it's also been used to determine the probable sources of things like IEDs in Afghanistan, tracking the hunting patterns of great white sharks, and even mapping the origins of infectious diseases.
Really? Wow.
He believes that reason and logic and not emotion should guide decisions and beliefs. He's like a modern-day Sherlock Holmes kind of guy.
Okay.
So he gets involved in Jason's disappearance, and he creates a geographic profile of the area where Jason goes missing. He visits Salt Flat in the daytime and again at night during the hour that Jason went missing. Kind of sounds like a Sherlock Holmes, right?
Yeah, it does.
He tried to recreate Jason's steps that night. He took off his shoes and started walking down the gravel road barefoot at midnight. Quote, I made it 10 steps before I said, F*** this. It was too painful, end quote. That gave me a little giggle.
Yeah.
While he's out there, he encountered people he believed were oil workers. He couldn't really make out who he was talking to, and when he told them he was working on the Jason Landry case and asked if some of the nearby structures would have had lights on in December, a woman said to him, quote, no, you need to leave now. You're on private property, end quote.
Okay.
And he said to her, okay, but I'm not on your property, end quote.
Yeah.
Then he got into his car and drove to a bridge that crossed a nearby creek. And while he's standing there at the bridge, a truck pulls up and stops right next to him. He walked toward the truck, and the driver pointed a shotgun at his chest.
Good Lord.
Quote, I'm saying things to him that are probably not very smart, like, what branch of the military are you embarrassing today?
Oh, man. Jeez.
He's angry, I'm angry, end quote. They both called the police, and officers arrived before the incident escalated. Kim Rossmo spoke with Jeff Ferry, a Caldwell County detective, on the horn, and Jeff tells him that the man he encountered with the shotgun was Stuart Carter, who is known for shooting 2 dogs that belonged to an oil worker who was checking on a well on his property and shooting his own son during a family fight.
Good grief. Stuart
maintains that he was well within his rights both times.
Oh, man. Okay.
Carter will say that Kim Rossmo, who he calls the professor, was drunk and that he never pointed a shotgun. Kim Rossmo says the only thing he had to drink was chocolate milk that day. And Detective Ferry tells him to write up his version of the night so the DA can press charges. That never happened. To which Detective Ferry said, quote, "Welcome to Caldwell County, Texas," end quote.
Sounds like a movie.
It does. Stuart Carter has strongly denied having anything to do with Jason's disappearance, but if he shot dogs that he thought were a danger to him and his livestock, then why wouldn't he shoot a naked kid? Mm-hmm. But Kim Rossmo's final conclusion is that Jason, after wrecking his car, entered a hypothermic state, and the undressing is a phenomenon known as paradoxical undressing. This is so fascinating to me. I'd never heard of this before. Mm-hmm. Paradoxical undressing is when the blood vessels in the body lose their ability to constrict. It's known as vasoconstriction, and this allows a hypothermic body to keep warm in the core and away from extremities. It's the body's defense mechanism against the cold. So keep everything, anything that's important to keep your body going, keep that warm.
Interesting.
That's why you lose fingers and toes in the cold.
Yeah.
But it will eventually fail. And when the blood rushes back to the arms and legs, the person is hit with a sudden sensation of being hot, like hot. And it apparently makes the person feel an overwhelming urge to remove their clothes. And it's followed by something called terminal burrowing, which is also known as hide and die syndrome. This is a primitive behavior where warm-blooded mammals seek out small enclosed spaces to shield themselves from the cold. And if this is what happened to Jason, he could have tried to hide in some dense shrubbery, and after he would die, his body would be eaten by wild animals in the area. Coyotes, bobcats, vultures, and wild hogs.
Right.
The bones that weren't pulverized would be spread over a large area, making it really hard to find anything. But the night Jason disappeared, it was between 36 and 43 degrees, with a wind chill that made it feel a little bit colder. Now, if you live in a cold area, like if you live in Minnesota, or you live in Milwaukee,
or Kentucky,
or even Kentucky, 43 degrees, that's not cold.
No, not at all.
That's not cold at all.
That's called springtime here.
It's true. I went to the Final Four when Kentucky and Wisconsin were both in the Final Four, and we were in Texas, and it was cold and rainy, and I had on a sweatshirt and jeans, and the people from Wisconsin had on shorts because it was warm to them.
Sure.
Yeah. There was an hour between Jason's last communication and when his car was found. So was that enough time for him to become hypothermic? And paradoxical undressing only has been recorded in Texas 10 times. And of the 22 people who died in 2021, it was when Dallas County lost power and it was below freezing for over 139 hours.
Wow.
And only 5 of them were involved in paradoxical undressing. The rest of them just froze to death.
Yeah.
But Kim Rossmo has said that more than likely Jason died not far from where they found his clothes on the road, but was more than likely attacked by wild hogs, and his bones were disarticulated, pulverized, and spread over a large area. So the county sheriff's office is like, that's it. Yep. He was eaten by wild hogs, no body, no crime, case closed.
The pigs did it.
The pigs did it. But the locals who owned land in that area said that there were no vultures at that time. And if you've ever lived in the country or even in the suburbs where wildlife or your next door neighbor's cat might get hit, you can see vultures circling overhead when there's any kind of decaying flesh.
Yep.
So they're saying that the vultures will come around dying livestock and even newborn calves. And even if a cow or a calf is killed, it takes a while to wipe the signs from the earth that there was something dead there.
Right.
And if he was eaten by wild hogs, why were there not any traces of the blood in the area?
Right.
A whole body? The wild hogs eat a whole body and there's no blood?
Yeah.
One of the men who got involved in the case was Abel Pena. His daughter went to school with Jason, and she told her dad he's a great kid, and she was dating one of Jason's closest friends. And Abel is a retired FBI agent who worked missing persons cases for the Bureau.
Okay.
So his first impression was that Jason may have died by suicide. Based on his clothes, it seemed like he was heading back to Luling into town, and if he was dead, they would have found him. But Abel waited for the county sheriff's office to do their thing first, and then he reached out to the Landrys to say, I want to offer my services free of charge. And he felt pretty confident he would be able to give Jason's family some answers.
Well, he sounds like a really good guy.
He really is, and I've seen lots of interviews with him. But he had founded a nonprofit called Project Absentis, I think that's how you say it, that specialized in missing persons cases. And it's him and a bunch of other former law enforcement guys. Now, he's not on board with the whole wild hog theory. He wasn't focused on the crash, but Jason's actions before, exactly what you were talking about.
Right.
Jason had missed his turn in downtown Luling the night he disappeared. But what Abel couldn't reconcile was why he continued down Salt Flat Road for miles, passing more than one opportunity to turn around and get back on the interstate.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason's phone told him that his Nissan was going between 35 and 40 miles an hour. And this is a dangerous speed on a gravel road. If you've ever driven on a gravel road,
Yep.
You're going to spin out. So Abel wonders if Jason was being followed or if he was acting on his own. Was he being told to go to a particular location out there to meet somebody? So he says it's about the intersection of East Austin Street and Magnolia Avenue. This is where Jason didn't turn right toward I-10. Abel Pena started interviewing people in the area, something that hadn't happened. More than 100 locals. And he seems convinced that there's a criminal element to this case, one that involved selling drugs.
Yeah, but the first thing that came to mind, though, when you were talking about that is the fact that they have his phone now, and they could check to see any kind of calls that he would have made to,
a dealer or something like that?
A dealer to coincide where he was to meet him or whatever.
Okay, but what you don't understand, Rob, because we don't use Snapchat. Snapchat is something that can be used and then the message goes away.
Gotcha.
So...
Okay.
WhatsApp is sort of the same way, right? Can't you do the same thing there? You can use WhatsApp to message somebody.
The only time I use WhatsApp is when I deal with clients over in England because that's what they use.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Abel set up a tip line where people could anonymously call in. One source said that Jason, while sitting at the intersection, was overtaken by more than one person who beat him up, took his car, staged the wreck along Salt Flat Road where Jason was forced to strip and his clothes were left on the road before he was disposed of somewhere far away from that particular location. And according to Abel, quote, I don't think it was necessarily kidnapping. I think it could have been a random act of violence, maybe something that went south pretty quickly, and maybe the individuals involved didn't mean to kill him, but then had to do something to hide the evidence of their crime, end quote.
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense that they would have made him strip. I mean, I don't get that.
There's so many things that just don't make sense in this case.
Okay.
His colleague, Abel's colleague, Stu Gary, who spent years working for the U.S. Border Patrol, where he was trained in, quote, main track or, quote, sign cutting, end quote. This is a method of looking for evidence of illegal border crossings in which agents can use changing light and their understanding of the local lay of the land to search for things like scuff marks in the dirt, animal tracks, rocks that have been disturbed, and places where the vegetation has been altered. And according to Abel, he believes there are people in Luling who know what happened to Jason.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
Yeah. Stu Gary went to the crash site to take a look a few weeks after Jason's disappearance. There was no blood, no signs of tissue attached to vegetation or human footprints on the ground. Quote, you couldn't walk 20 feet without running into a fence post or being scraped by the thorn bushes and the underbrush there, end quote. Now, it's not like Abel and Stu are holding back their info or intel either. They've shared everything with the Caldwell County Sheriff's Office, but it didn't take long before that relationship went south. The sheriff's office was sticking to their wild animal theory, and they weren't going to concern themselves with the possibility that he was a victim of a violent crime.
Even though they had somebody saying that they thought they saw that.
Yeah, but they don't. It's like, well, who is that?
Yeah. That's true.
No. Stu and Abel believe that the folks in Luling who do know what happened are afraid to speak up because it could happen to them. By 2022, the state attorney general's cold case missing persons unit started assisting in the Landry case. And for the next 2 years, there's a warrant for a geofence, which took a petition signed by over 16,000 people for Jason's family to get.
Wow.
The Caldwell County Sheriff's Office and the DA's office wouldn't agree to make the warrant application.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Just didn't want to do it. And the private eye team hired by Jason's parents uncovered circumstantial evidence that Jason was not alone at the time of his disappearance. Now, a lot of this stuff is not out because he's still missing, right, and no one knows where he is. So a lot of information they have, they're holding back.
Okay.
But just in case you don't know, a geofence is when a cell tower can show anybody and everybody who's pinging that tower at a certain time. So they can see that Jason's phone was there. But the state attorney general's office says that Jason's phone was the only phone. On the anniversary of Jason's disappearance, they would issue a statement letting the public know of its, quote, unwavering commitment, end quote, to the investigation. But in November of 2023, the Attorney General's Office of Texas said, quote, all credible leads and investigative steps had been pursued, but they do consider it an ongoing and active investigation, end quote, which makes no sense to me. You are either working the active investigation or all leads have been pursued and you've closed it, right?
Yeah.
So the county sheriff's office and the state attorney general's office are all sticking with this wild hog theory. But Kent, Jason's dad, isn't buying it because how did pigs consume an entire corpse, including the skull and pelvis and femurs, before all those hundreds of people combing the area found something?
Yeah.
And as far as he's concerned, the feral hog theory was just a way for law enforcement to wash its hands of the case. Yeah. It's hogwash, actually.
Nicely done there, babe.
Quote, you can't say a wild hog must have eaten him, so therefore I don't have to do my job, end quote.
Yeah.
There were DNA samples taken and fingerprints taken from his car. There are databases that can search these, but the sheriff's office doesn't believe there's evidence of a crime, so they have never run any of these fingerprints through any database.
Good Lord.
I've seen an interview with the guy from the county sheriff's office who's sort of like the point person that they talk to, and he's like, well, how many people have been in your car? How many fingerprints could you live? Well, if my child was missing, I would want you to run every single fingerprint in that car.
Exactly. Jeez.
Jason's father, Kent Landry, and others close to the family have expressed their skepticism about law enforcement's apparent focus on a single scenario and their reluctance, in his view, to fully explore or publicly acknowledge other possibilities. Kent has questioned the completeness of the wandering off explanation, pointing out that after more than a year and now more than 5 years, no remains, no clothing fragments, or other definitive signs of Jason have been discovered, despite repeated searches. There's a woman named Cindy Lay who is an advocate who has helped lead search efforts and manage community awareness of Jason's disappearance. She's spoken about the enduring uncertainty around what truly happened that night, saying, quote, somebody did something, end quote, and whether that means chasing him, frightening him, or otherwise influencing his movements. Lay and other search leaders have maintained that while accidental death is possible, the evidence is not strong enough to close off any other avenue. So why did Jason deviate from his expected route and drive into this remote area?
Yeah.
He'd made this drive before, and what happened during those 60 to 70 minutes of missing unexplained time in his digital trace before the crash was discovered? Why has no bone fragment or other confirmed physical remains been found, even though they've searched repeatedly over the past several years? And why did he take off his clothes and leave them in the road?
Yeah.
Was it hypothermia? His car's headlights were on. Would the car start? Did he have access to heat in his car? So here are some of the plausible conspiracy theories about what might have happened that night.
All right.
His impaired driving led to a fatal exposure. He was high, tired, distracted, which caused him to miss his turn. He crashed on Salt Flat Road, was disoriented, maybe from a head injury, and in his confused state took off all his clothes and died from exposure, and the wildlife destroyed his remains, which is what the police want to say. Mm-hmm. He crashed the car and then accidentally drowned in an area that wasn't searched early on. He crashed the car and then committed suicide, dying somewhere they didn't get to fast enough, and again, wildlife scavenged his remains. But there's absolutely zero evidence he had any suicidal thoughts, right?
Right.
But here are some of the other theories. What if there was foul play at or before the Luling intersection? Jason might have been stopped by someone, law enforcement impersonator, local individual, an acquaintance, somebody he knew. Mm-hmm. He was coerced or chased down the wrong road. What if someone else took over the wheel of his car? Or maybe after crashing his car, he willingly took a ride from someone, either under duress, and the scene was then doctored with the clothes and the backpack, not the weed. I think the joints were his.
Yeah.
But what if someone staged the scene and then took his body? Jason is harmed or killed in a different location, perhaps connected to drug activity, a personal dispute, random violence. His car is then driven to Salt Flat Road and intentionally crashed or left to mimic a single vehicle accident. And then clothing and belongings could have been scattered to simulate a disoriented person walking away while his body was transported and concealed elsewhere.
Right.
Or he came in contact with a local landowner who confronts him for trespassing, leading to an altercation and an accidental or an intentional killing. Then the killer hides his body on private land. There was a vigil held last December 2025, but the Landry family wants to know if you know anything. I'm going to give you 3 things, folks. The Facebook group, the Attorney General Cold Case and Missing Persons Cold Case Tips, and the anonymous number, which is 726-777-1359. And I will leave you the Facebook information and the Attorney General Cold Case information in the show notes. Me and many others feel like there was some shoddy police work done that night when Jason disappeared. They allowed critical moments to slip through their fingers. As for what happened to Jason, I don't know, but there are plenty of people praying for him and his family, and many more still looking for him. So if you know something, say something. But that is the disappearance of Jason Landry, and that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, well, my take on this is that none of this makes any sense whatsoever.
None of it makes sense.
Yeah.
And you can imagine his dad being a trial lawyer is like, this is BS.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he says that now because he's a Presbyterian minister. He doesn't probably say the actual word, but he knows what it is. It's hogwash.
Well, and the fact that the local sheriff just kind of washed his hands of everything. Yeah. It's like, dude, why did you get hired for that job? It wasn't just to go, oh, well, let's find the easiest way out, and then I'm done. I'm going to go home and have dinner.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, he went home and went to bed. That's what he did.
Yeah. So I hope they find some closure on this, because that's just, nothing makes sense.
Nothing makes sense, and it's a travesty. It is an absolute travesty. And the fact that his parents are getting zero answers. But I will say this: I think they're still looking. I think there's still movement. I think they're still investigating everything. But a lot of that information just isn't out there for people like me to know.
Yeah.
So they're whatever cards they hold, they're holding them close right now.
Right. Well, if we have any updates, we'll certainly give them to you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's move ahead with a little Bless Your Heart.
Well, bless your heart.
All right, number 1.
Number 1.
George of the jungle, look out for that tree. While sitting in his cruiser, a police officer witnessed a man walking around a used car lot at night in the middle of winter.
Okay.
It had snowed for a while and was still snowing at the time. Before going to talk to him, he radioed one of his buddies to come meet him and watch him for a minute. The guy opens one of the car doors, which is unlocked, and proceeds to start hot wiring the car.
Oh.
Yep. As they start to drive over, he gets in the car. He gets the car started, puts it in drive, and floors it. But what he forgot to wipe the snow off the windshield and drove straight into a light pole about 4 feet in front of the car he stole.
That's unfortunate.
Busted.
Bless his heart.
All right, number 2.
Number 2.
Is that a bird in your pants, or are you just happy to see me? At a Petco in Alabama. All right.
Oh, no. Yep. It already sounds bad.
Yep. There was a guy who would compulsively steal things.
Okay.
It was never anything expensive, just toys for his dog or something like that. But one night, about 30 minutes before closing, he comes in with a friend. Knowing his routine by now, he gets his friend to distract the clerk while he steals.
Okay.
Anyway, his friend comes up to the store clerk and asks something about dog food when he noticed that the thief went to the bird aisle. So the clerk agreed to help him, but he makes a discreet page to the store manager to let him know what's going on. The manager goes to find him and sees him stuffing a bird perch down his pants.
Oh.
And not just a little one either. This thing was almost 2 feet long and neon pink. So naturally, the manager calls the cops, and he eventually has to pull the ridiculous thing out of his pants, and he's arrested.
Got a code bird on aisle 3, code bird. Sorry,
right.
I had to do it.
Number 3, and finally. No one is laughing. A man who tried to rob a Glasgow bookmaker's while armed with a gun came unstuck when he was tackled to the ground by an off-duty police officer.
Okay.
And obviously this is in Scotland.
Scotland.
Gary Ruff brandished a cucumber covered in a black sock at a female worker at Ladbrokes in Shettleston and demanded cash, which she refused.
Oh.
Ruff then was pinned down by the officer and arrested. He initially told the police it was all a joke before inquiring, am I getting jail for this? He was indeed jailed at the High Court in Glasgow in 2014 after admitting assault with the intent to rob with
assault
a cucumber.
With a deadly cucumber.
That was it. So there's your dumb criminals.
I was going to say, is that a cucumber in your pocket? Or are you just happy to see me? But yep. I'm on it today.
There you go.
Well, if you have a bless your heart, or you know somebody who's concealing a bird perch or a cucumber in their pants.
Yeah, exactly.
All you got to do is go to hitchedhomicide.com. When you get there, there's a pull-down menu, and while you're there, you can also suggest a case or tell us about your brush with true crime. That's my amazing husband out there.
And that's my beautiful bride in the booth.
Join us next time on Hitched to Homicide.
Bye, y'all.
Your package says delivered, but delivered where exactly? The hallway? The lobby? Your neighbor's apartment? Instead of playing detective with your deliveries, get a mailbox at the UPS store. We'll sign for your packages, text you when they arrive, and keep your deliveries low-key under lock and key. Get 3 months free mailbox services with a new annual agreement at the UPS store. For full details and to get your coupon, visit theupsstore.com/offer.